Please subscribe my channel. I didn't think it would matter. That's the part 1 keep replaying in my head. It was a stupid comment, tossed out without planning, without intention. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the same one we'd eaten at for years, the same one where bills were sorted and grocery lists were made. I mentioned another man. Not his looks. Not desire. Just a joke. A careless comparison wrapped in humor, the kind people make when they assume safety already exists. I laughed. I waited for him to roll his eyes or shake his head or fire back with something equally harmless. Instead he went quiet. At first I didn't notice. Silence had become normal between us. Not the comfortable kind, but the practical kind. The kind that fills the space once conversation stops feeling necessary. He took a sip of his coffee, set the mug down carefully, and stared at the table as if there was something written there he needed to read twice. I remember thinking he was tired. Or distracted. Or maybe he hadn't heard me properly. So I repeated the joke, softer this time, adding a smile like punctuation, trying to guide the moment back to where it was supposed to land. He still didn't respond. That was when something shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a subtle change in the air. His shoulders stiffened. His jaw tightened. He didn't look angry. That would have been easier. Anger invites explanation. Anger can be addressed. What I saw instead was withdrawal. A kind of internal closing that I recognized too late. He stood up, rinsed his mug and placed it in the sink. Every movement was deliberate, controlled. He didn't slam anything. He didn't sigh. He didn't say my name. He just walked out of the kitchen and down the hallway, leaving the light on behind him. I sat there longer than I should have. Waiting for something. A comment. A door slam. A text from the next room. Anything that would turn the silence into a conversation. Nothing came. The house felt bigger, emptier, like the walls had stretched apart. I told myself I was overthinking it. That men don't always respond right away. That silence doesn't mean anything on its own. I even felt annoyed at myself for caring so much about a reaction to a joke. That night he went to bed early. Earlier than usual. I watched him from the doorway as he lay on his side, facing away from me, his phone on the nightstand untouched. I thought about apologizing. The words formed in my head, lined up neatly, ready to be said. But I hesitated. The joke hadn't been cruel. I hadn't crossed a line. At least that's what I told myself. So I stayed quiet too. I told myself we were both adults. That if it bothered him, he would say something. The next morning he was polite. Not cold. Not warm. Just polite. He asked if I wanted coffee. He reminded me about an appointment I had later. He spoke the way people do when they're being careful, when they're choosing words the way you choose steps across thin ice. That politeness hurt more than anger ever could have. It told me something had changed and he wasn't interested in fixing it out loud. Over the next few days I tried to act normal. I told myself this was just a phase, that married people have moments, that silence doesn't always mean damage. But I noticed things. He stopped touching me in passing. No hand on my back when he walked by. No casual closeness. When I spoke, he listened, but only enough to respond appropriately. There was no curiosity in his eyes anymore. No warmth. It felt like I was talking to someone who had already made a decision and was just waiting for the right time to act on it. I replayed the joke again and again, analyzing every word, every tone shift. I wondered if it had confirmed something for him, something he'd already suspected but never voiced. Maybe he thought I compared him more than I admitted. Maybe he thought the joke revealed a truth I hadn't intended to share. I wanted to explain. To clarify. To tell him it meant nothing. But his silence felt like a closed door. Knocking on it suddenly seemed risky. One evening, as we sat on opposite ends of the couch, I realized how loud his silence had become. It wasn't passive. It wasn't avoidance. It was communication. He was telling me something without saying a word. He was telling me that respect, once cracked, doesn't announce itself when it leaves. It just goes quiet. And I understood then that the joke wasn't the real issue. It was the moment he stopped feeling safe enough to speak. I went to bed that night knowing something between us had ended. Not the marriage. Not yet. But something essential. Something that couldn't be laughed off or explained away. And the worst part wasn't that he hadn't argued with me. It was that he hadn't cared to.